On here. I'm going to test something today. We're talking about seasons, cycles, and stages. One of the most important things you might pick up from this is if you do the right thing at the wrong season or wrong stage or wrong part of the cycle, you're done. You're going to get in trouble. Hopefully, this is showing up correctly on your side. It looks backwards on mine, but we'll find out in just a minute. So let's talk about seasons. This one's easy to understand. So, if you were thinking about seasons, we might think of the fact that there's three or four major seasons in life. We would go like this: there's one season, two seasons. Um, let's throw another season in here and we'll grab another color. What should we do? Blue. There we go. So we have four seasons. And this is widely known. There's certain things you do in certain seasons. Now, this just makes sense. Would you go plant seeds in winter? Meaning, what are the activities you do during winter versus what are the activities you do during spring versus what are the activities you do during summer versus what are the activities you do during fall? Each season has specific activities that it would intelligently make sense to do and not to do. If you're watching this live with us, in the chat box, real quick, what are some things you do in the summertime? What are some activities that would make sense to do during summer? I think it would probably make sense to, if you were a gardener, protect the seeds you planted, give them extra water, keep them safe, right? What would you do during springtime? It probably makes sense during the springtime to plant seeds. What would you do in fall? You'd probably harvest. What would you do in winter? You'd probably, bundle up and stay warm. And so you got to first think of the seasons and then watch this. If we think of seasons, now let's talk about stages. If you thought about your life in decades, let me just put some decades here. And let's just look at this and see if it makes sense. So if you have your, let's say 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 70s, and then 80s, and 90s. If you have your life in stages, would it make sense that there's certain activities you're probably going to be more focused on in your 20s? So certain things you might be focused on doing here that would be different than the things you'd be focused on in your 40s, and especially different than the things you'd be focused on in your 60s. Does that make sense? Yeah. Now, what's interesting though is if you look at this, do most people step back, look at the entire set of stages they're going to go through, and do they consciously decide what would make sense to put into each stage of their life? The answer is no. Most people do not consciously think this through. And so I would ask you, what would be smart to put into the current stage of your life, and what would be smart to start preparing and designing into the next two or three stages of your life? Because you got to do it on purpose. You got to design it, craft it, and then put it in action. Now, here's the other thing. There's seasons, there's stages, and then there's cycles. So this is kind of a long-term debt cycle is the whole thing. And then in a long-term debt cycle, there's short-term debt cycles going up and down every 8 to 10 years. And when things are going up, the simple thing would be earn as much as humanly possible. And when things are going down, the goal would be both to earn and then avoid giving any back is the acronym. AGUP. Avoid giving it back. And those are the right things to do at the right cycles. Another way to think of cycles or seasons, and let me show you how these come together. If we were to race these real quick, and let's do sports. There's preseason, there's the season of the sport, there's post season, and then there's off time. Now, do most of us run our lives like this? Do most of us say, hey, am I currently in preseason for the projects I'm working on? Am I in season where it's a dead sprint and it's go, 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 go? Am I in postseason where I'm recovering? Or am I in the period that off might be the wrong word. What it is this is refuel. Am I in the place where I'm mentally, emotionally, physically refueling to get ready for the next season? And so if you think about this, it only makes sense that if you have the top athletes in the world and they're thinking about the preseason, the season, the postseason, and the refuel time where they get back to their best self, clear their mind, and then they come back for preseason and do it again. That makes sense. And then for them, for most physical athletes, usually this is the stage of life when they're pushing the hardest. And then we have to understand where we are in the cycle, if X marks a spot, and then what's the right thing to be doing at the right time. When you understand, and P.S., what kind of cycles are there? There's financial, there's relationship cycles. Most people have health cycles they go in and out of. Most people have emotional cycles they go in and out of. And so we have to look at this and we have to fully understand, what stage are you in? What part of the cycle are you in? And the third part is, what part of the season are you in? If you understand all three of those things, then you can accurately make decisions on what the right thing to be doing right now is. And P.S., if you do the right thing at the right time, you get unbelievable rewards. You do the right thing at the wrong time, you get nothing. And so if you're interested in something like this, shoot me a direct message and just say cycles, stages, and seasons, and I'll get you some information on what we're up to.